It's time again for You Tell Me Texas with KTBB's owner, general manager, head honcho, check signer, swimsuit model, pecan connoisseur. Who knew? Paul Gleiser. Morning, Mr. G.
We weren't going to talk about the swimsuit thing. Remember,
we have to talk about
it. Remember, we came to that agreement.
The people have a right to know.
Yeah. They have a right to be protected. We're sponsored by K.E. Cellars, Tyler's Old World Style Boutique Winery in the French Quarter on South Broadway across from the mall. The KTBB World Tour excursion to London and the English countryside is now more than halfway sold out. If you're thinking about this trip at all, you'll need to act soon as we're down to room for only 9 more couples. So let me recommend you do this. Go to ktbb.com/world tour. Click on the link at the top of that page for the photo gallery. You'll see pictures that I shot when I was doing the advance work for this trip last month. That gallery will give you a small but very important taste of what you will see and experience if you join my wife and me departing November 19th. Aside from the icons of London, Stonehenge and the ancient Roman city of Bath alone make this trip worth its amazing price of just $22.99 per person, and that covers just about everything. Go look at the pictures if you're on the fence. Look at the pictures and then decide. Go to ktbb.com/world tour and follow the link. Of the many things the left hated about George W. Bush, one of the biggest is the fact that he's from Texas. It's hard to overestimate the disdain elite liberals have for the Lone Star State. To them, Texas is the backwater of backwaters, unsophisticated, racist, misogynist, and homophobic, a desert wasteland of cactus and tumbleweeds populated by latter-day Neanderthals. I'm not exaggerating. A woman from New York that I know very well nearly missed the airplane for her first trip to Texas several years ago. Why? Well, she felt the need to make a last-minute dash into one of the shops at LaGuardia to buy pantyhose, fearful that such products of civilization would not be available in a place as primitive as Texas must be. She was not joking. Hollywood perpetuates the stereotype, the drawling, overbearing, poorly dressed, beer-sodden, cowboy-booted oaf continues as the cliched characterization of a Texan in movies and TV shows. Coastal elites who bear these images either do not know or choose to ignore the fact that the University of Texas uses its size and resources to conduct more primary research in more academic and industrial disciplines than any university in the country. Limousine liberals in New York and Washington would likely be skeptical if told that a big reason for NASA's Manned Spacecraft Center being placed in Houston was so that the Apollo Moon Project could benefit from a steady flow of young engineers from Rice University. From the perspective of the ruling class elites, there is nothing to recommend Texas. It's a miserable red state George W. Bush spawning hell on earth. So how then do they explain the job numbers just released by the federal government? In the past 10 years, even in the face of this withering recession, Texas added 732,000 private sector jobs, 250,000 in the past year alone. No other state added as many as 100,000. 31 states lost jobs. Which states lost the most? Well, you might guess. Liberal enclaves like California and Michigan, which taken together shed nearly 1.25 million private sector jobs. So what is it about Texas? Well, for us natives, it's not complicated. First, there's the low-tax ethos that is a part of Texas's DNA. Texans become opposed to the idea of a state income tax while still in the womb. It's a starve-the-beast gene unique to Texas, which serves to limit the amount of revenue that state politicians can use to buy votes. This congenital aversion to taxes, coupled with a part-time legislature that convenes for only 140 days every other year, has served to limit the size and scope of state government. And then there's the fact that Texas is a right-to-work state, which keeps unions out of the pockets of employers and politicians out of the pockets of unions. Plain and simple, it costs less to do business in Texas, and business has noticed. Assuming you could get coastal liberals to unwrinkle their noses at the very mention of Texas, which I admit is unlikely, what could you teach them from this jobs data? Simple. Keep government small, keep its nose out of business, let the citizens keep their own money. Prosperity will follow. Why is something so obvious so hard for so many to see? That's my word. What's yours? Go to youtellmetexas.com and you tell me. People who hear me do these commercials will sometimes say, well, you're the wine expert. I am no such thing, or if I am, then so are you. My so-called expertise is no more complicated than I know what I like, and if I can be a wine expert on that basis, then you can too. So I'm going to help you become a wine expert yourself. Go to KE Cellars and tell them I sent you in for a wine expert tasting flight. If your taste runs to the light and sweet, they'll pour you a tasting sample of each of the Kiepersol Texas Vit, the Kiepersol Viognier, and the KE Cellars White Zinfandel, 2 whites and a blush. If you run to the bold and intense, they'll pour you the Kiepersol Bridge, the Kiepersol Merlot, and my favorite, the Kiepersol 2007 Cabernet, 3 great reds. You're going to like one or more of these wines, and when you do, you too will be a wine expert. This is possible because KE Cellars is a working winery with a tasting bar. Try any wine in the collection before you buy it. You can't make a mistake. KE Cellars, Tyler's Old World Style Boutique Winery in the French Quarter on South Broadway across from the mall, and online at KECellars.com.